Welcome back to Podcast Recovery, everyone. We're your hosts, David O.
And Carly R.
Today, we are joined by our very special guest from across the pond. Cate, how are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you, guys. I just about got used to the time difference because we went an hour ahead last night.
Oh.
So we were all sat kind of watching TV going, is it 1:45? And then we were like, oh no, the clocks have gone ahead. So yeah, it's about 4 here now.
I didn't know you guys had daylight savings time.
Yeah, we do.
And it's different than ours.
Yeah. Ours started, 10 days ago?
Yeah, March 14th, I think it was. March 14th.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think, I don't really know. I usually use my gran. She usually rings me up and just tells me to phones do it now though, don't they? Automatically. So
makes sense.
The wonder's gone.
So where are you from, Cate?
So right now I'm coming to you from Manchester, UK. So I've lived here for 3 years, and prior to that I was in London for 12 years. And prior to that I was at home with my mom, which is in Hull, Northern England.
Oh, okay. All right. So when were you first introduced to recovery?
So I'm quite a newbie when it comes to the whole damn thing. No, I didn't realise I had a problem at all. And I think that's one thing that as I've gone through the sober community, I've really kind of connected with people over that fact. It only becomes a problem when it becomes a problem. And someone's, warning signs vary on a scale. So, I didn't think it was a problem being sick in the morning before work. I thought that was all part of what I was doing at that time. Yeah. And I'm 34 now. So when you get to about kind of 31, 32, you start saying to yourself, I thought I was an adult.
Yep.
Shouldn't be doing this anymore. And then when it gets more serious kind of medically as well, you're like, okay, this is posing a risk to my life. So, and I'm one of them people that literally I can have a cold and I'll march on. Nothing, my foot has to be dropping off before I will go to the doctors. And even then, I'll do it begrudgingly. So when I became, I found recovery when I became worried for my health, I would say.
Oh. And how long have you been clean?
So, September the 29th, 2019. It's around about 540 days. I used to look at the app every single day, but now I'm quite confident that I don't really. I'm sober from alcohol and cocaine. So for me, the two went hand in hand in chaos.
You both
said that exactly the same
Yes.
time.
Yep.
You can't have planned that. That was literally sobriety coming out there. No, the most amazing thing about becoming kind of sober from alcohol is you don't just pick up a gram of cocaine every day and put it in your nose. It doesn't come to you, that idea, really, unless you've had quite a lot to drink. And believe me, I got really excited and thought that it might happen. It doesn't. No kind of sane person goes, good morning, it's Sunday, I'm going to go and buy a gram of cocaine. You can't, you don't do that. So I was like, well, some people do.
Carly, no.
Guilty.
Or did.
Again, that scale. I didn't think that was a problem. You probably didn't think that was a problem. Have it on your toast, nice cup of tea, across the pond, obviously, stirring a bit of no, it became, I'm sure as you've both found as well, it had an impact on my finances because the way it went for me was I'd be in a bar, and what's recently happened is since I've become sober, I found out I've got symptoms of female autism, which is a really, really interesting thing because believe me, when you're kind of like 33 years old, someone telling you you've got autism after you've spent all this time becoming sober is like the most ridiculous thing you could ever hear. You go, I'm sorry, what? What are you doing to me now? And it turns out that the reason I gravitated towards alcohol is from a small village, not much to do, except go buy cigarettes, and then who was first to buy a bottle of vodka. That was the exciting thing to do. And I just ploughed on from there. When I through adolescence and had social situations, I would turn to alcohol for confidence. And that got more and more and more over time. And as my symptoms of autism became worse in the pandemic, I had to, thank God I was sober by that point, but I had to, every bit of routine that I'd made, I had to then put a new routine inside it. So for example, I work for a tech company and I was like, take your phone, wipe phone, put on mask, take mask off, put on mask, I don't know. And my whole brain just imploded in itself. And I was like, why can't I do my day job? What's going on? I've spent all this time working really hard to be okay, because you think naturally as soon as you get sober, everything's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And
that is not the truth.
Not true. Not how it works.
You are in for the biggest emotional ride of your life that you've ever had, because believe me, when you've been, and as you know, when you've been drinking vodka neat for a solid 15 years and shoveling cocaine up your nose, you're not ready to deal with emotions. No. So I think when you talk about, and I don't know, I've researched a lot into autism, or as it should be called, neurodiversity now, but one of the main things within that is overstimulation, sensory overstimulation.
Oh yeah.
So it was like a cannonball hitting me from every different direction. I was like, Then I got a very, very good psychologist, and we worked out that I'd been neurodiverse since a child and never been picked up on it. Female autism is very, very different to male autism. Males tend to, and not for any reason, I don't personally believe in gender necessarily, but from a physical perspective, male autism is categorized by someone being a bit more quieter in groups, not making eye contact. Female, totally opposite. I've never been picked up because not many people know about females with autism, and I'm talking to you now, I'm bubbly, and if you add vodka to that, I was a hoot. Like, absolutely. But I was always the hoot that would end up, I sleep outside a pet shop somewhere, like in a ball dress or something, just not okay stories. And because I got this kind of bravery, and the more I drank and the more I used drugs in the end, that bravery only became heightened and heightened and heightened. I convinced myself that I couldn't do anything without these substances, which I'm sure feels the same to anyone that's listening. And yeah, I decided after I know doctors are a bit more readily accessible in the UK. We have our great service, the National Health Service, and I am no stranger. I have a lot of American friends, and I'm no stranger to what a godsend that is. That is something that we should be so proud of in the UK. And I identify as a lesbian woman, and the doctor was so hot when I went to see her that I couldn't lie. And for the first time in my life, I said exactly. And she's left now. She was called Dr. Parks, and she had a kind of like young Glenn Close look about her. I just couldn't lie. And so she said, how much do you drink a day? I was like, oh, I don't know. Too much. And she goes, no, let's break it down. You know, what do you think is too much to drink? And I was like, 3 bottles of wine and a bottle of Jägermeister. That's too much for me. And she was like, right, we need to just have an open conversation about if you've managed to drink that much before. I was like, that's the most I've got to. Yeah. She goes, this isn't a competition. Let me show you how many units are in that and what you are doing to your body. Because like anything, we just get better and harder to get drunk. And my weight fluctuated as well. The fatter I was, the harder it was to get drunk. And then I'd be like, oh my, when you actually think about this is awful. And I love talking to people like this, because you find little things that you haven't really thought about. And I've just realized I used to intentionally make myself get thinner so I could get drunk quicker.
Wow.
I was like,
that makes sense.
I would have nothing to eat all day just so I knew that it would only, I didn't have much money. I was a bloody cocaine addict. So yeah, it's when you find those revelations and you can see yourself now, it's shocking, but it's kind of like, I fucking did that. That's not a lie. And learning to own that and craft that into something, which I decided to paint and managed to, that's my next sort of thing. I paint the days of my sobriety.
Oh, wow.
So I all I wanted to do, red wine was my thing. Red wine and vodka, any kind of Stolichnaya. If you've heard of a British comedy called Absolutely Fabulous, it centers around two extremely English, overdone older women that are from Kensington, London, and just think they are the upper echelon of everything, but they're actually two drug addicts, well, basically, and two alcoholics. And they wear all these grand clothes, but underneath it all, they're just the same as an addict, really. And I wanted to embody that life so hard that, yeah, it's madness. I've lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
You were talking about Absolutely Fabulous and the red wine, cocaine, and vodka.
Yeah, I loved all that. And in the evenings, without those things there, I was left with a lot of time to fill.
Yeah.
So once I watched the entire series of The X-Files, which took a while, I was really quite bored. So I trained as a set designer in London. That was part and parcel. You know, I glanced over London because for me, that was when the drinking really got bad. I was training at a top drama school, and I found it really hard to fit in coming from the north of England. Now, I know you guys are a lot bigger in terms of America, but there's a great north-south divide that exists in the UK. And a lot of people in the south, in London, it's just like sibling rivalry, I suppose. But northern people are classed as a bit more rough and ready, whereas they're known as southern softies down south. So I have a very kind of English accent, and that is because I went into a school where there was not many people that spoke like me. So I had like elocution and stuff and learned to be like them in one way, but I could never be like them in terms of money. So I just knew someone that could get you something, and I became that person. And with that I had a status, and I was that kind of individual. And then after graduation, when I began designing and met some famous people and designed a lot of plays that were very successful. But it came with after show parties. It came with opening night. And, you know, it is almost like your job to have a drink in hand going around talking to people. Yeah. My idea of hell. Obviously, I'm going to get into a job where a good part of it is hell for me. So I would just keep going just to try and mingle and because I was a female with autism, not quite knowing why I couldn't do this. And then I think one of the best decisions I ever made was I left London with a partner, and we moved up to Manchester just to relocate because housing's quite a lot cheaper. And after that breakup, I sort of realized that things weren't okay with me. There was something that I couldn't place in terms of a feeling that was consistently unfulfilled. It felt fulfilled when I had some sort of stimulation. So it was in the back of my mind, but I wasn't ready to even attack that yet. That was just like, keep going. I used to drink bottles and bottles of wine in an evening because I was so unhappy, really. And then the last night I drank, I remember it so clearly. The last drink I had was a Guinness and champagne, which is called a black velvet. It's a cocktail that they drink on our pub sometimes. And me and my really good but bipolar diagnosed.
Delightful.
It was really good. Well, my best mate, he's literally one of the most amazing people in the world, bipolar diagnosed, and takes a cocktail of antidepressants to manage that, but he drinks like a fish. And you know that friend that you've got where you just try and keep up and you can't because poor babe, you know, he's been cooking on all sorts of medication for a good many years. You're not going to come close, but I was going at it as well. And yeah, I came to at about 7 a.m. in a lock-in in a club in Canal Street, which is the gay area of Manchester. And I'm saying come to because I don't know what I was doing before, but my sort of senses sort of came back to me a little bit. And I turned around and there's this woman having a full-blown conversation with me about something ever so intellectual. And I looked at her like this, because I didn't even remember getting into the club. And then I turned around and my best friend is there having the same intellectual conversation, but with somebody else. And I look in my hand and it's like a champagne glass with this thick, oily, syrupy liquid in. And I realise I'm at work at 10. And I'm like, I can't do this. And I just look at my friend and I say, darling, I've got to go. And he went, yeah, I've got to go. And then I got home and I felt so terrible that I walked to the nearest A&E hospital and said, I don't feel safe to be on my own. I'm a history of suicide and I don't feel safe. And thank God someone said, just sit here for the evening. And I sat there for a good couple of hours and then I said, I think I'm fine. And I spoke to my friends and I said, I need to do something about this, because this has gone beyond what I can stretch on the scale of normality and having a laugh. And this is a serious threat to my health. But it involved, as you probably both know, and anyone that's listening, it involved a lot of emotion handling. And I wanted to find a way to sort of take everything I was feeling and put it somewhere. I needed it out of me.
Yeah.
So I could draw a bit. I'd never worked with painting. I never did a pre-course for university. I was just accepted straight off the bat. And I never had any exploration into what art is. I DJ'd for a bit, loved music, always been creative, but never picked up a paintbrush. And I just, on day, I think on probably about the 18th or 19th day I was sober, I started to paint. And I painted, picture 539 last week, and I paint every single day.
Wow.
I don't always exhibit them or sell them. And sometimes, for example, someone who's sober from States, I think, contacted me and said, do you do commissions? And I said, no. He goes, oh, I can see you're coming up to day 250. And it would be amazing for me to take that from you and buy the painting and stuff. So I did commissions now all over the world.
That's awesome.
I've got doing some for Amsterdam at the moment and Hong Kong. Trouble is, I live with friends at the moment because of the lockdown situation in the UK. So they can only be a certain size at the moment. They can't be any bigger. But I'm looking. Yeah, it's quite a big size. But I'm looking for a studio at the moment. I had no idea it would take off in the way that it has. I don't know how many pieces I've sold in total because I've given a lot away. I did postcards on our first lockdown and just sent them to people that were struggling in sobriety. So sent them to Canada, America, just to brighten people's days. My work is abstract, and I've not been taught. So when I speak about abstract work, this is only what I've come to know as an artist. I'm not pretending I know things, but
you're speaking abstractly.
Yeah, that's very good. You should do podcasting. Have you thought about it? No,
I have. I'm going to look into it. Let me write that down. Hold on. That's a good idea.
So I literally kind of got a load of paint. A lovely friend, Vince, gave me his mum's old canvases because she's elderly and can't use them anymore. And I just started to really, it sounds weird, put the paint to the canvas, but I really just had a go, and I was like, oh, and I suddenly began to, I felt a feeling that I felt when I took cocaine, because it was the ecstasy of balancing out color in this way. So I had made those choices to put those, and I paint with a trowel, sometimes my hands, just random. And I paint like that, and then I can see flow in the painting, and I can level it out, and that kind of satisfaction when I feel like it's balanced. And the whole influence for me is, pop art. I'm a massive fan of David Bowie, Andy Warhol, so all the colours and neons. I'm a massive fan of the rave scene that was in Manchester and the Hacienda and the 80s and everything crazy. So I have a very eclectic taste, and I like to show that in the paintings I do. So on from that, it wasn't enough just to paint, and I started a company called Art Friends, which supports other artists in recovery. So anyone that's either working and living with a mental health condition, going through diagnosis, or is in recovery, exhibit, and we host calls every day on Sunday. And we basically just talk to each other about what we have. And let me tell you, it is the most interesting thing I've ever done. We've got someone that's diagnosed schizophrenic, someone that's diagnosed bipolar 1, bipolar 2, ADHD. You've got me with autism, and we all just meet like this on Zoom. We're all in different places. We're just having someone in recovery come over from Sweden, Thomas, and we all just kind of go, like, we bring situations and go, I reacted like this, what do you think? And it's so interesting having someone that's kind of schizophrenic go, well, I would have said this. Because you go, okay. And you just sort of model through together. It's designed around my autism. I love admin. I do all admin. I I just like sitting and organizing things. And I understand that for other artists, that could be, especially artists in recovery, maybe they have the only strength that day to lift and do that painting and get it out.
Yeah.
Whereas what I want to do for them is make use of my skill, which is I have a website, I can host this, I can do a little bit of promotion, and we can all exhibit in one place. And then when someone comes to, we called it Art Friends because me and my friend Nico that started this, they have ADHD. And we met randomly because their psychologist had referred them to me as an artist in Manchester. I don't know who that psychologist is, but I need to pay them because that was the best thing that happened. And we started saying that we would meet every once a week and be art friends and then we moved that on to welcoming. I think we're hopefully going to get about 9 or 10 of us in the next month. So as a direct, they can really have as much or as least involvement as they want. Maybe it's foreseeable for them to just give me some pictures and some ideas, or like maybe it's just they want to exhibit just to be a presence. Some of our artists are anonymous as well, which is quite interesting.
Ooh, a Banksy.
But so that's where I am. I've just started the company as a real company, so I'm a director.
Oh wow!
Ooh. I just wanted the title, really.
Of course, yes.
No, I don't. I care deeply. Director Cate. I think I've just gone part-time on my day job to enable me to do that more, which has been a really hard battle in my brain because as someone that paid off a lot of debt in the last 3 years, I'm talking like thousands and thousands of pounds brought about by my drinking and nothing else. I used to have a £500 loan just because I wanted a Chinese because I was hungover. And I'd be like, oh, it's fine. It's a payday loan. What are these for? Where do they come from? And I literally allowed myself to think like that in that realm. I'm an Aquarius by trade, so I'm a bit like watery, airy as it is. But in drinking phase, I just didn't care. I would just go, I'll get a payday loan. Who wants another round? No one got any money? It's fine. I'll just do it now. And I wanted so much to fit in, but I also have a harebrained kind of business head where I'm like, well, why don't I become a cocaine dealer? Because that's the thing to do. No, it's not the thing to do because...
No, don't do that.
So I was able to manufacture my need to be a bit like a dodgy dealer and also my need to be around people, but do it into something a bit more positive rather than stuff like that. So that's where I'm up to. I don't know. That took exactly 20 minutes.
Oh, perfect.
You see, it's autism. That's what it does. You
just had a clock going. And the buzzer went off and you're like, ding, time to go.
Just don't drop a box of matches because I have to count every single one and it'll stop it. I'm joking. At this point I'll pause and see if there's anything you want to ask me, because once I get into a rhythm I tend to talk quite a lot.
So do
pause.
We. All right.
I'm gonna have a sip of water.
We definitely have some questions. I'm gonna start if that's okay, Carly.
Obviously I knew you were gonna start, so
Okay. All right. I'm going to start with some 2 fun questions first. So,
I like fun ones. They're a lot better than non-fun ones.
Yeah. First off, has anybody ever told you look like the actress Tilda Swinton?
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Someone asked me in London for my autograph, and because I'm just a stupid idiot, I was like, oh, they must have seen my last play. So I was like, signed it and gave it to them. And then they were like,
you're not who I thought you were. Okay. And then the second fun question is, who's your favorite painter?
It's not a painter, it's a sculpture. Does that count? Or a person that sculpts, and his name is Stanislav Zukowski. He was resident of the Hollywood Hills until not so long ago, but he's a very famous sculptor that all of his work got destroyed in the war. So how gutted would you be?
Oh, goodness.
And he was exceptional. Like the pieces that remain are of a quality that is so good. It's unreal, but everything got destroyed. So I actually found a piece of his work, a print, and I bought it for an obscene amount.
What was the name again?
Zukowski.
Can you spell that for us?
No, I'm dyslexic. S-Z-U-Z-K Zukowski.
Yeah,
perfect.
I got it.
Yeah, I got the first bit, and I was like, it was like, if I get to the first bit, I can just let go. Yeah,
Google will translate it for us.
Sorry.
All right, Carly, what do you got?
Let's see. I guess this is not as fun as David's, but still kind of fun. I want to know more about like how you said paint the days of your sobriety. Like, how do you go about that on a daily basis? Is there some inspiration that comes up daily and kind of directs you in a certain like place?
Yeah. So I thought my psychologist suggested that it might be easier in recovery to keep a diary, and I'm the sort of person that goes, I'm not going to be one of those recovery people. I'm going to just not use anything. I'm going to not have any help. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And then you reach that black space where you're like, ah!
Yep.
So at that point, I turned around and went, well, I don't want to do a conventional diary.
Yeah.
She was like, well, what do you like? What are feelings to you? And we landed on the fact that feelings are like colours to me. So I know how I'm feeling based on colours. So a stupid thing I do to my friends. I was walking with a friend yesterday and goes, how are you feeling lately? I was like, really like purple.
That makes sense.
I love it.
I love that.
And he was like,
me too.
Right. What colour am I? I was like, oh, you're like peach. You're nowhere near like purple, but you are that.
I think I'm feeling very green, Yeah. It's spring. We're getting to that part.
Andy Warhol used to go up to paintings and just comment on them, things that were already evident. Like he used to go to a painting and go, hey, it's really brown. And I think it was a comment on it not really meaning anything.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I get into trouble a lot because at work and places that are kind of like conventional spaces, like an office or something like that, I don't speak in the way that everybody else speaks.
Me too.
I have no filter.
Me too.
So like, I'm the person that, as an example, it will say, look at the size of that man's phone. And I'd go, penis! Because my brain will do that.
That is exactly what he would do.
Yep, totally.
People in a corporate situation think this is a problem, like at work, and they'll be like, why are you doing that? I'll be like, why are you not? Because it's not Tourette's, it's more just I think, and things come into my head. So we're looking at a way to not do this as much. And when it comes to kind of feelings and things like that, it's much easier you can't offend anyone if you say a colour. You're never going to offend someone by accident.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling today, Kate? Do you know what? I'm feeling quite red.
Yeah.
Says to that person, I'm not all right. You don't need to speak to me. And it's like, I think animals do it the best with how they show what they are.
That's exactly what I just thought of. Like a little poison dart frog. They're always brightly colored. They're bright yellow and vibrant, like neon green. So like I like that, describing yourself in colors. That's beautiful. Love it.
I should be a poet. You see, I should be a poet instead of a painter. No, I'm joking. But I think being able to take something like that, I can go, okay, I'm feeling orange right now, and I don't know why, but I'm feeling kind of like this is here, this kind of bright orange. It's like an excitement, but I'm also a little bit nervous, but it's not red territory. And when you start to think about stuff like this, it's really easy to paint because you just hover over colours and go, and that goes with it. And it's like, when I'm doing it, I'm going, what am I angry about? How am I going to get over it? That way. Like, and it just sort of all envelops together, and that is that day. And whatever's recorded, however the strokes are, sometimes I carve into it, sometimes I paint over and over and over and then unveil paint below it because I've been thinking about someone I fancy and I don't fancy them anymore. You know what I mean? So it's a visual diary in a sense. And I've just started cataloguing the whole thing into NFT, which is going to be my life's work.
Nice.
I love that.
I love that so much.
I don't have a partner at the moment at all because I just do really geeky things, and I don't know if you guys, I don't know if this is this type of podcast, but one thing I can't do is kind of meet people now that I'm sober. I think it's a massive thing to say, because we always talk about sobriety and go, oh yeah, it's the best feeling ever now. I'm so happy. We are, but you're happy on your own, because it's very difficult to meet somebody else that's where you are. I started speaking to someone recently, and I just had to slow down with it, because although they're sober, there are so many journeys to sobriety. And I think, without unveiling too much about their personal stuff, like, my sober journey's been very, very chaotic and different to theirs. And, you know, for example, I'm sober of alcohol and cocaine, but I regularly use CBD for autism side effects. Like, I use a CBD vape because it helps me relax in front of you guys, because if not, I'd be doing this. And, you know, when we talk about being sober, it's really yours to own, and only you get the choice to decide who says what and when. And it doesn't matter whether you became sober because you just didn't like drinking. That's a very, very different journey to someone that's become sober after 15 years of abuse. You've both done it in the same way, but I think I need to meet somebody else with that much chaos to go, I've done it too, and you're okay. Because I realized recently that when you open up to someone about how you became sober, your story can be very different to somebody else's. And I think they just sat there and were like, right. And I'm like, sorry, I interrupted. I went off on a bit of a tangent with your question.
No, that's fantastic.
No. That's perfect. All right, now I'm going to get to the serious. We're going to get to the serious question now.
Okay, let me put on my metaphorical serious hat.
Okay, good. So, which one?
You can ask both of them.
Okay, I'll ask both of them. I have two questions. So did your sexuality play a role in your addiction at all? Because we've had other like gay and lesbian guests on here, and they talk about like that feeling that they didn't understand when they were kids, and they I guess acted out on it through drugs and alcohol. So did that play a part in your like road to addiction as well?
Absolutely. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I think sex, because it's considered such a taboo in certain families, countries, anything, and people's variants of sex and integration with sex and how much exposure they've had to sex varies so wildly that, you know, people can either rebel with that and go to a place where it's quite damaging, really, when you're outside looking in on it, or people can just kind of shy away. There's all different realms in which you can do it. For me, I initially began abusing it, and then I had a very, very odd relationship with somebody where they pointed it out to me that I was drinking a lot, and that was the first time that someone had actually said it. And I was like, it was someone that was quite a bit older, and at first I dismissed it as kind of someone slightly older telling me how to live my life. And then I realized that actually this person was maybe trying to help and maybe cared about me. And I just discovered, like, I wasn't ready to lose another relationship because I can't grasp the fact that I'm an alcoholic. And since I made that decision, my attitudes to kind of sex have been very different. When it comes to homosexuality and I think sexuality in this, I use men much more as a device to hurt myself with. That's may not be the nicest thing to say to men out there, but if I wanted to, I was not careful in situations where I should have been very careful with, and I put myself in undue danger with people, which resulted in a sexual assault eventually, which is something, you know, I've processed, but it'll never leave me that I could have made that a very different story had I not drank as much alcohol. It was a terrible thing for someone to, you know, I was drugged in a club, and from a club in the gay community as well. So it was a straight male that was waiting there for someone like me to just kind of And it's partly that person, but it's also partly me putting myself in that position as well. And that's a really, I've been told all the way along that something bad will happen eventually to you, Cate. You only have 9 lives, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, bring it on. And then when that happened, everything stopped.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of questioning, because I originally used to kind of go about university as bisexual. It seemed very new, but we're talking like 34. I was probably 20. Yeah, so we're talking like 14 years ago. Bisexuality wasn't as readily accepted and welcomed as it is now.
Yeah.
And so I saw it as a very, like, my mum once said to me, you can either be gay or you can either be straight, but don't be bisexual, don't be both. I was like, okay. Interesting logic. Yeah. But in England, I don't think she's going to listen to this. She can't really even fathom.
She won't know.
But that kind of comment really stuck with me, because I've been intensely interested in duality all the way. That's an ice cream van in a pandemic, by the way. Why would that happen?
Awesome.
We're
getting back to normal.
No, it's been going around all the pandemic. As a recovering addict, I'm sure that person's selling drugs. I'm sure.
Yes, most likely.
No one wants ice cream. You can't come out your house at the moment. Why?
Yeah.
I digress. Yeah. I think duality has always interested me, and because of kind of comments like that, I've always shied away from having 2 existing things at the same time.
Yeah.
Because, being told that you could be one or the other, I think very black and white anyway. And I've had a problem my entire life trying to find the grey. So I would say I've become more open sexually since I've been sober, because I sort of did a sexual reset, because I had to really come to terms with the fact that I don't think I've had sex much sober. And that was a massive thing to realise. So my thought behind that was, well, how do I know if I'm gay, straight, in the middle? So, yeah, I've just kind of gone, what will be, will be. I identify as lesbian. I identify as she, them, because that's also another question for me. Like, do you paint as a gender? Surely, that's weird. So I'm willing to, there's a lot going on at the moment, I think, in the world. And
absolutely.
It's almost like it's pick a side, pick a team, pick a box, pick a something. Yeah. And I'm just not willing to pick at the moment, because I won't be forced to pick.
Right. Why should we have to?
Yep.
And I'm really concentrating at the moment to be okay with that duality. I am a Aquarius Capricorn cusp, so I read both horoscopes. It goes on 2 different days, and I've always seen different things dual inside me, and I believe that gender is one of them, and I also believe that sexuality is one of them. And I think hopefully that we'll come to a point in 20, 40, 60, 80 years time where we don't really talk about it.
Yeah.
Because it would be like saying, have you got married yet?
Yeah.
And having autistic eyes in the world sometimes is it makes me question really obvious things. So I got into trouble at work because we were talking about how do I do this without unveiling where I work? Watch straps. Obvious now. And they were like, this is a pink watch strap. Who'd buy this? And someone went, oh, female. And I was like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's absolutely terrible. Anyone could buy that. What if it's someone from the 80s that remembers like Aha and so what if they're into neon? Like, this is disgusting. Disgusting. And everyone was like, why can't you get on board with this? And then I realized that I was like, I'm fiercely against someone having to prove a unity to something. Like, I believe that you make your own way in the world, and whatever you can manifest can be yours.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm not Esther Hicks or anything, but I think I believe in spirituality. I believe that if I am, I don't know, driven by some sort of spiritual want and to better myself in every situation, and I am content with the choices I make, and I'm able to explain why I do them, then there's not much wrong. And if anybody believes a certain way and would like to be educated about certain things, I don't have a problem doing that
either.
To certain people.
Yeah.
Did you want to ask your second question?
Oh, sure.
Good memory, Carly.
So have you used any specific fellowship or like model of recovery, or have you just sort of just blazed your own trail and kind of figured it out for yourself?
May the bridges I burn light my way. Right. First of all, in the UK, I look for meetings.
Mm-hmm. Really?
It's there probably, but in my area in Manchester, in a pandemic, just before a pandemic actually. So it was in October. I couldn't find anywhere that I could go to. Yeah. That's the first of all. Second of all, everybody in my circle drank. And I had no help. All my family drink a lot. I was coming home at Christmas and my gran was like, I've got the bottle of gin. I was like, yeah, don't drink that anymore, do I? She goes, well, I bought it now. I'm like, okay, so entire year and a half sobriety, I'll throw it out the window so you can have your gin. No. Yeah. So when I realised that the whole world feels absurd about alcohol, that kind of absurdity, but I bought it now. It's regarded as like a loaf of bread. It's that common.
Yeah.
I sort of was like, I can do this. This isn't a problem. And I screamed a lot in toilets when I was out with my friends. I really, really freaked a cleaner out one time because I had to go into toilets and just scream. Can you imagine if you were desperate for the loo and you come in, there's just me sat on the toilet screaming at the top of my voice. Just in this like kind of effervescent. Awful.
That's a different type of feeling green. That's a whole nother realm of the green spectrum.
Yeah, I don't know what they thought I was doing. Not having a great time, that's for sure. I think I didn't have anything, and that in a way makes it a lot easier for me, because I think the only problem that I had with set design is I had to follow a bloody director's choices, and I was like, I don't like doing that. I'm just very overconfident. I'm not autistic, but I couldn't follow anyone else's method. I had to make my own, and it in the beginning, I was worried if I was going to be okay. We talk about destruction and deconstruction quite a lot, like with me and my friend. And there's a destruction is not being sober, and deconstruction is the part when you just become sober and you have to peel back. That sounds awful, but that's the most awful kind of sentiment that I can put with it. It does feel peeling back.
Absolutely.
And little by little, you kind of emerge with a new sort of skin, and you keep going a bit, and then one day you're like, hey, maybe I'm going to run. What the fuck is wrong with me? I've never ran in a bout. And then you go out and you fucking run. And then you come back and you go, hey, that felt good. I got me some endorphins. Maybe this sober life is okay. And it just builds from there, trying not to be too annoying about the fact that your skin's better, your health is better, your wallet's better.
Oh, yeah, that's true. All right, Carly, to you.
Okay. Can I also ask 2 questions?
Absolutely.
I didn't know who was in charge, David or me. I just was nodding, like, yeah, go for
both. As long as you're okay with me asking.
We're all
I'm so impressed that you've literally kind of, your questions are good. You actually listened to me. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank the podcast. Thanks to the presenters for listening to you. Check.
So how has like the late diagnosis of autism affected your sobriety?
So this all came about because I got myself into a situation at work where I'd said something I didn't mean. And I couldn't understand. I won't give any details, but I couldn't understand why I'd said this thing. And I went over and over in it in my brain. And I went back to my psychologist. I said, I can't understand why I've done this. I think I'm losing my mind. And I feel like the only thing that'll get my mind back back to where it needs to be will be a drink. I don't know if I'm going to be okay. And then we began exploring the fact of what it means to be autistic, and how we went from something, my psychologist is so clever. We went from something I could really get on board with, which is learning. I love learning.
Yeah.
And we went all about what the brain does and how the brain works. And I realized there were vital missing components in my, college level biology, because I'd probably been smoking or drinking somewhere that I'd not taken in. And that was, brains work in different ways. People process things, and my brain sees an image before I speak. And if I don't watch it, it's going to say what it sees.
Yep.
So you can imagine how terrible it must be finding this out about yourself, but at the point not having any way to control it, because and not being able to have a drink to control it, because when you're drunk you can go and say that. Yep. And that sort of gets away with it, but when you're completely sober and you say an idiotic thing to somebody, you go, it's one of these things. So we began kind of exploring what it means to, first of all, think of a response, and then it means to what it means to think of as a response again. So in the same way that you ask me questions now, I'll sort of go, okay, what are they asking? Right, they're asking that, but what are they really asking? They're asking this. And then it's that time, like I always imagine it like a little dog's head when it looks at you and ticks its head to the left, like it's like, what are you saying? And I obviously don't extend my neck a full 180 radius when I talk to people. That would be quite idiotic. But that kind of head tilt allows me, it's a physical motion, it's a movement that allows me to question if what I'm about to say is okay. And I've learned to do it without drinking over the last year. Yeah. So I kind of get away with it because I've never had a problem with exams or school or learning. I've triumphed in every exam that I've taken. So what people tend to look for, I think, in education, predominantly in the UK, in younger children, is the ability to not connect with others. Yeah. The ability to not interact with the crowd. It's entirely bloody possible that you just might not like the kids that are in the pen with you. They might smell funky. Yeah. Or no one ever thinks about that. When a girl is ostracized in a group, they obviously assume that there's something wrong or that person's depressed. Or, I went a long time looking at a bipolar diagnosis because I just got so down that I didn't fit in. Yeah. And if someone telling me that my brain's just wired a little differently, we don't know where you're on a scale to anybody else, and then me acquiring an actual date for an autism exam it took a year to get that, and it's not something that's, I was able to get one on our NHS service because I waited a year. It's £1,000 to do if you can't afford to wait a year. So when you're in recovery, it's a pretty up against it kind of system. And so, I've got that for June the 16th, that's booked, but the tests that they've got are for children. Oh. So they just muddle me against a child's exam of how autistic they think I am now at 34. And it takes 2 hours. And it's like, how did you do your buttons up as a child? Yeah. How, the brain is such a different thing between everybody else. And we don't know. We've got a template for autism, but we have no idea what it is. No. And it could be to do with wiring yourself the wrong way. It could be, I had a mental break from alcohol that allowed me to see into this other dimension of how my head works a little bit more. I could just be Ozzy Osbourne, like that kind of level, and I've just taken so many drugs across my life now that I've just convinced myself I'm autistic. No, who knows? No, my doctor's actually got me a test. Don't worry. It never occurs to you as someone that loves drinking that you're different from anybody else because everybody else is doing it. So it never occurred to me that when I stopped drinking that I'd have anything to left underneath it. I thought I'd just, like I say, be okay. No, I got bloody mental health diagnosis. But I wouldn't turn it around if that was one of your next questions that you've written down. I would never have the alcohol-based life over this. This is more fun because you literally, I I'm always learning so much about myself every day that by the time I'm 40, I'm going to be unstoppable. Like, watch out, world, because I'll learn the most about brains anyone ever has. The weird thing about having autism is when you feel compelled to do something, you have to do it.
Oh yeah.
So it can be anything. You know, last week I got really, really into hieroglyphs by the Egyptians. It was a whole week. You know, I function as a normal person. My best friend Rami, she's like, "Do you want to go for a walk?" No. I'm researching hieroglyphs. She goes, "Yeah, you were doing that on Monday. It's now Thursday." I'm like, "There's so many hieroglyphs to research."
There's a lot of hieroglyphs. Okay, this is not a one-day process.
Do you know the Egyptian language of hieroglyphs have words inside words inside words inside words in them? So, like, a lion man can mean I've gone to the shops and posted a letter.
Yeah, but it just depends on whether it's next to a stork or the hand or. It's and then
my friend rang me on Friday and said, "What are you doing today? Are you researching hieroglyphs?" I was like, "No, I've got bored, so I'm going to come for a walk now." And that's literally how my life will work. I just need to do it until I've got all the information, and then I'm like, I know enough now. This is enough.
Oh wow! All right, Carly, your second question.
What would you consider as your biggest accomplishment so far in recovery?
I painted the largest canvas I've ever done for a customer, a buyer. I don't really know how to define people that buy art. Customer doesn't seem the right term. A client, we'll say it like that. That sounds a lot more like I'm some sort of lady of the night, and I like that a lot better. So I was a client asked me to do the largest picture I've ever done, which is, I think, 1 meter by 1.5 meters. Now, I have quite a small terraced house, so you can imagine what it took to paint that inside my living quarters. And I said, "Yeah, what are you thinking?" She showed me a few reference pieces that she really liked, and then she said, "I really want you to do your own thing." Now, as an artist, that's probably it's the brief everybody wants, but it's the scariest brief you'll ever have. My own thing had been about 500 acrylics, mate. You know, what do you want? And I was like, "Oh," and I put it off for 2 hours, and I'm very onto time. That's why I was, and I was like, oh. And then I was like, "Look, I just have to start it. I was like, I'll order some new paint." So I got the new paint. It came. So I haven't started it. I was like, "Oh my God, what am I going to do?" So I just did it. Just 2 hours. The most beautiful thing I've ever done. I don't know where it came from.
Awesome.
And I was like, if I have that inside of me, then I never have to worry again. Because if you can make that from your brain, choosing where to place certain things or paint, because you're literally throwing shit at a canvas, aren't you, really, to create that, then you've found your purpose in life, and not many people get to find that. So that's my most proudest moment, I think.
Awesome. Great.
That was a good.
I have nothing to say because I'm just it made me so happy.
Yeah, that's an amazing accomplishment. All right.
Yeah, David, with autistic people, don't go because they won't know what the hell that is. I was like, does he like it?
I'm sorry. That was absolutely
I thought
perfect.
You had a small cough.
No, like I felt.
Sorry, I'm making Carly really laugh now.
I felt very that was such a comforting response to hear, like that. It was just something that where you were in a place of such apprehension and anxiety, and then you just plowed right through it, and what came out is something that you didn't even know you had. And the amount of confidence that you got from that is just such a beautiful microcosm of a journey for an accomplishment that was the I felt.
I mean, if you can put all that into a David, then you are a wondrous person as well. Or if anything that would make it better would be a sort of beard pie may flick from Kill Bill. Anyway, continue. Sorry, I was reveling in your.
Okay, so I have one last question, and this is I'm going to end it on a fun one. So, what do you find weird or funny about Americans?
Well, the person I've just been seeing is American. That's why it'll be really funny because we were kind of going over this, and I was like, "Hey, I got a milkshake with chocolate, peanut butter, and Biscoff," and she was like, "Biscoff," and I was like, "Yes, how can I help you?" No, she was just like, "Biscoff, is that like a cookie?" And I was like, cookies and biscuits, like, come on guys, a cookie has chunks in it, whereas a biscuit is thinner.
Yes. It's very different. It's two very different things.
I find the weirdest thing is that people will consistently in America refer to a whole manner of different biscuits as cookies.
Yeah.
You know, you can have here in the UK, we're crazy about them because we're crazy about tea. So you've got your bourbon. That's a kind of biscuit. Hobnob kind of biscuit. Cookie only is an umbrella term for things with chocolatey bits in that are baked in a certain way. That's the one thing. If you want something a little bit more intrusive than that, what do I find weird about Americans? So my sister lives in Florida, in Tampa. And we're not as in touch with each other as we used to be based on certain political views, which is sad. But the thing that I found really strange about in Florida, you guys don't have corner shops.
What do you mean?
So, like, I wish I could show you. Where we live in Manchester, it's like loads and loads of houses, and then you walk around the corner, and there's a little shop, for your bits.
Yep.
For you need lighters, or you need some biscuits, or you need a loaf of bread or some milk. Just a bit. You're not your big shop, not your big supermarket shop, just bits. You reach for the cupboard and go, "Oh, I don't have pepper. I'll nip out and get some." Or, "Should we get a bottle of alcohol-free wine for tonight, darling, whilst I seduce you?" Yeah, that would be lovely. You nip out to the shop. My sister had to drive like blocks to get to a 7-Eleven.
Yes.
And even then, when I was smoking, I tried to buy Marlboro Lights, and I was like, "Hello there, could I have 20 Marlboro Lights, please?" And the woman was like, "Oh God, say that again." And I was like, Marlboro Lights. And she was like, "What are you trying to say?" It turns out you can say 20 sticks of Marlboro Gold, then they give you what you want. But they didn't know what I was doing. They thought I was being quite awful. So corner shops, biscuits, strange ways to describe cigarettes. But all in all, I do love you all very much.
Oh,
we love you guys.
It's so funny because someone that I've been recently seeing is a self-confessed Anglophile. And I had no idea that people just love you for being English. I didn't know that existed.
Oh, yeah.
I should have got onto this because I could have, I've been to the States a couple of times and I haven't really paraded my Englishness around. Next time I go,
flash a Union Jack across you and you are in Flint.
I'm going as Jerry from the Spice Girls, but make it gay with short hair. I'll be like,
yes, love it.
But yeah, all in all, totally. I hope to spend more time in the States when we can.
Oh, sorry, that was Carly's dog going nuts.
As long as it wasn't, I thought, that's really nice as well, because I saw a little tail come up on we're recording on a special program, aren't we? But there was a little tail that came up on your screen, Carly, and I was like, "Oh, she's got a tail. It's okay." Fine.
That's another strange thing about Americans.
They all have tails.
And yes, we all have tails now. There's an offshoot from the COVID. We got COVID and we grew tails.
Literally an offshoot off the spine.
Very good.
There we go.
There we go. Do you have any final questions, Carly?
I don't believe so.
But you do. Your dog has a question.
Can I answer that with simply?
Oh, see, that was the growl was very subtle. There was a lot more.
It wasn't a. Huh. Was it? It was a. Anyway, so much to be done with. We could go into semantics all day. No, it's been a pleasure.
I do want to know, where can we find your art, your paintings?
Oh, that was very good.
Please tell everybody where to find you.
I should market myself a lot more, shouldn't I? So I have an Instagram account at The Sober Painter. I'm also redesigning my website, thesoberpainter.com. I have another website for the Art Friends project that I was telling you about, artfriends.co.uk, and you can find them on Instagram under Art Friends Market. For anyone that's interested in the NFT community, Art Friends NFT. It's basically Art Friends or the sober painter. You can't go wrong. Mm-hmm. I hope I've made myself so apparent that if anyone is interested in Art Friends, can I be your art friend at Gmail? And we'd love to have you on board if anyone is in recovery out there and wants to. We deal worldwide, so it doesn't matter if wherever you are in the world. It's just a nice place for artists to get together.
Awesome. Love that. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we would like to thank our guest, Cate, for joining us this evening.
You're welcome. No, it was a pleasure, guys. It's really lovely to talk to some other sober folk. And I'll be listening more.
All right. Well, I'm going to give you one quick minute to speak to anybody out there who's listening, struggling in their own way of recovery. What do you have to say to that person?
You save the best till last, don't you? I would say keep going. There's no need to scream on toilets. Cock your head to the side and think about the next choice that you make. If you have a beard, swish it like Pai Mei, but make sure you cock your head and think about the next choice that's in front of you and think, how much am I worth?
All right. Love that. All right. Let me read my little sign out real quick. Here at Podcast Recovery, we are aiming to expand the scope of support for recovering addicts. Accessibility and convenience of helpful services is paramount to combating addiction. We work to bring the message of recovery to every addict, wherever and whenever it is needed. We believe that a powerful voice of recovery should be obtainable, practical, and at the touch of a button. Every addict deserves to hear a message of hope, and Podcast Recovery is here to provide it. All right, everybody, thanks for joining us. Please come help us keep the mics on. Join our Patreon. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. For more information about Eric, Carly, Allie, and myself, go to podcastrecovery.com. But most importantly, everybody out there, Carly, could you help me?
Stay safe and stay clean.